This question actually came up a lot, and I think it's an interesting topic to talk about, which we've touched on before. But the question is, basically, what do you think is more profitable, being a streamer or being a YouTuber? And specifically, a question that came up would be, what is more profitable, like a 3 to 4 hour stream with like, say, 20 to 30,000 concurrent viewers, or a 10 to 15 minute YouTube video?
With how many views?
With, let's say, 1 to 2 million.
Look, I would say if you look at creators of similar size, like I think Fresh would be a good example of someone who he's one of the largest people on Twitch these days, and he's also one of the largest people in Fortnite YouTube. I would definitely say YouTube. YouTube it's interesting because the thing is, and this is what I've always found so interesting about live streaming in general. Like there's this huge obsession when people talk about, kind of like gaming content creation. Yeah. Live streaming is so often the big part of the conversation. But the numbers are just so vastly different. You look at a lot of like really, really big channels. Like I'm actually going to, while I'm talking about this, so like Fresh probably streams the vast majority of the time. Like in terms of where he actually invests most of his time, he does it on twitch.tv. And he, through all of that time streaming, probably 8-9 hours a day, 7 days a week, gets 4 million views a month. 4 million views. Compare that to his YouTube channel. He invests a lot less time in, but I think at the moment is pulling 130 million views a month, meaning he would need to stream on Twitch 7 hours a day for almost 4 years straight to get the same amount of views that he gets on YouTube in a single month. So long story short, what makes it interesting is people look at the biggest streamers and they look at the biggest YouTubers and they're like, okay, 20, 30,000 concurrents on Twitch, that's a big streamer. 1 to 2 million views a video on YouTube, that's a big YouTuber. The thing is though, the quantity of views on YouTube is so huge that you do ultimately make a lot more money from being a big YouTuber than a big Twitch streamer. Now, what's interesting is it's not like he would need to stream for 4 years to make the same amount on Twitch as he makes in a month. Because like we've talked about in a ton of episodes, an individual viewer on Twitch is worth a lot more than an individual viewer on YouTube. They spend way more money. They do donations. They do subscriptions. They do lots of stuff like that. And because of that, they, obviously monetize way better. But just once again, the volume on YouTube is so insane that, ultimately being a big YouTuber is generally a lot more kind of profitable than being a big Twitch streamer.
It's so interesting though that you say that, like that streaming seems to hold this thing with gaming though, and everyone seems to care about the big streamers, and 100% they deserve to be cared about a lot. But I think we see the same thing with sponsors as well. Like when we talk to a lot of brands that haven't gotten into the gaming space before, they're obsessed with the idea of live streaming, and they're prepared to pay really big bucks for live streaming sponsored content, even though the views that we could offer them on VOD content, like YouTube content, is so much more. And I think, I don't know if it's a little bit of a gimmick or it's something that's super unique to gaming and, it doesn't really translate to any other genre in the same way. And that's why people care about it so much. But it's always been something that I know you and I have spoken about where we're just like, I still think VOD content is far more valuable. I think a streamer and a brand.
I think VOD content, you can condense a message down. You can make sure that it's super on point. You can make sure that what the viewer is seeing is straight to like, this is what the game is. This is showing it in the best possible light. This is where you can get it. Link in the description. Let's go. Whereas I think a lot of the time, even if you compare it view to view, a lot of the views on a Twitch stream, someone might wander into the stream and the person's like on the main menu of the game, or they're halfway through a really crappy round. They're not saying the messaging that the brand wants at the right time. And ultimately, it's just not, so they're getting less views and a lot of the time a way less direct message. I think that, but not to fully discount streaming. I think that the one thing I will give it in terms of why, the one thing where I can understand brands wanting to invest in it is I do think if you look at the relationship between one of Fresh's average Twitch viewers versus an average YouTube viewer, I would say the Twitch viewers are probably a lot more engaged with him as a person. So they're probably slightly more dedicated viewers. But once again, I think the disparity is so big in terms of views that I think you're right. It is a bit of like a weird like obsession. I think it's a lot like esports 3 years ago. 3 years ago, brands would come. They'd be like, we want esports. Esports is like everything. And we'd be like, cool. No one really watches it. And they're like, no, but like we heard about it on the news. And it's like, like, you know, I'm sorry, no one watches it in Australia in the areas that we're talking about. To be specific, obviously esports globally is quite big. But brands will just get obsessed with it. And I think you're getting a bit of that right now with streaming because of all the talk about the streaming wars and, you know, Twitch Ninja, big streaming deals, all that kind of stuff. What I do find interesting, though, and this is, I don't know if this is reflective more of the demographic. I feel like we're getting way off topic here. But what I find super interesting is if I look at big Twitch streamers, you know, because even though I think we can very much acknowledge their names aren't, you know, their viewership isn't anywhere on the same scale as a lot of large YouTubers, I have noticed that a lot of the time their brands are much like are very, very strong. Like I know a lot of Twitch streamers who, you know, maybe pull 5 to 10,000 concurrents, right? Like nothing that crazy, but they actually have very, very strong brands. Like their Twitter engagement is huge. They're like other social stuff. And I don't know if that's just reflective of a slightly older demographic that they get as viewers on Twitch, but I have noticed.
My point to that would be that streaming viewers often watch for a much longer time. So the average stream viewership of someone like a creator is like 27 minutes for an average stream like watch time, which is really long. And I think that does go a long way for them building community and therefore building engagement, which goes back to what you were saying. But I think, yeah, long story short, you make more money.
Being a big
it's
YouTuber.
Very hard to compare. It's not apples and apples, but I would say, yes, generally being a YouTuber is more profitable than being a big streamer. Also, another just small point to make is that you obviously get the residual views. So if you uploaded a video a month ago, you're still making money on a video that you uploaded a month ago. Whereas if you stream today, the only time you're making money on that stream is today.
I'd also put it as there are a lot more there are a lot more gaming YouTubers making 7 figures a year than there are Twitch streamers making 7 figures a year.